Now, back to Access Tech Live, the latest in tech and accessibility. From the Zero Project Conference in Vienna, back to Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back to the Zero Project Conference in Vienna. We're live here on Access Tech Live. And, you know, it's been such an interesting conference because we get to meet so many interesting people. Just that last conversation there, just really insightful. And these are conversations that you just don't get the chance to have anywhere else.
No, that's why we're here, Stephen.
Exactly.
There's a reason that we're in Vienna. Yeah. I'm pleased to welcome our next guest, and I promise I'm not going to mess people's names up, but I'm going to try not to. Pascal Bijleveld, CEO, not bad. Okay, CEO of AtScale. Okay, AtScale is described as a global partnership for assistive technologies. Explain that to me. I gotta understand this a bit more.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So first of all, we're not a company. We're a nonprofit.
Okay.
We're actually based in the United Nations. We're a global partnership, which means we bring together a range of stakeholders that are essential to our mission, which is really to help increase access to assistive technology in low and middle income countries. Today, barely 10% people who need assistive technology have access to it in lower income countries, which is truly shocking, right? And so we're trying to change that paradigm, and we can only do it through a collective effort, hence the partnership, which brings together governments, civil society, OPDs, UN agencies, private sector, et cetera.
So what is the picture at the moment? I mean, I know we talk about this on a scale usually, and this is again why Zero Project is so important. We get to talk on an international scale as opposed to just from the US, right, just from the UK, Canada, whatever. What is the scale internationally in regards to accessing technology by disabled people?
So we estimate that 2.5 billion people in the world need one form of assistive technology or another. Now, that's not only people who identify themselves as living with disability. It's also the elderly, it's war victims. It could be just simply a child who can't go to school because he or she doesn't have eyeglasses, right? That's 2.5 billion people. This is a third of the world's population. And like I said, barely 10% of people have access to it in low and middle income countries. In high income countries, even though it's not perfect, far from it, and I'm sure you're all well aware of that, still access is around 80% on average. So it's that inequity that we're really trying to address.
How do you bring together the right people and advocate over such I mean, all the people that need to be involved to make something like this happen? It's an immense weight on anybody's shoulders, let alone an organization like this. How do you manage it? How do you deal with it day to day? What do you do?
So what we do very practically is we raise resources, first of all, right? Because you need money to change things. Not only money, but that is an important part. And we need flexible money, right? Money oftentimes in this space tends to be very directed and siloed and fragmented, which makes it harder to really bring impact and have systemic change. So we raise flexible resources that we pool together. And then we use that to partner with governments in low-income countries, help them develop a national plan if they don't have one, or identify priorities within an existing plan, and then support that financially alongside them, right? So there's a co-financing element, right? So it's to really get governments in those countries to step up, because too oftentimes they're not living up to their responsibilities in the space. That's one. The other thing is we're looking at the global level and what are some guidelines, trainings, normative kind of work, product specifications, essential assistive product lists that need to be put together that will help countries that want to scale up their programs do it better. The other thing related to that is engaging with the industry. So we're talking to 80 manufacturers, to innovators and others, to try to see if we can't find ways to secure better access deals. For example, by having tiered pricing, a differentiated price for high-income countries and low-income countries, and those kinds of things. And last but not least, we're active to try to raise more awareness and advocate for more financing and political support for assistive technology in those parts of the world. And we've just launched a global campaign called Unlock the Everyday in Davos last month.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. A fantastic initiative, which is, of course, at the heart of all of this. But it's interesting to me because it seems when I think about accessing assistive technology, I think about braille displays for blind children, I think about hearing aids for deaf children or for deaf adults. It seems to me that there are some really easy wins in all of this. You mentioned eyeglasses.
Yeah.
And yet there are so many people who go without.
Yeah, that's right. Eyeglasses is one. It's not that easy, unfortunately. Like, you have very low cost eyeglasses now available, as cheap as $3 for a pair. The challenge there is there's not enough professionals in those countries outside of the urban areas that can prescribe the eyeglasses and fit them and so on and so forth. So there's a human resource problem in that regard. But another easy one is what I have in my hand, smartphones.
Yeah.
Right? That is one of the most common forms of assistive technology today, and it's replacing other bespoke assistive technology, thereby also reducing the cost to access. And in fact, one of the reasons why we're here this week is tomorrow we have a session with Google and a GDI Hub, the Global Disability Innovation Hub. We're partnering together, the three of us, doing a large-scale study around the use of smartphones and how that can change someone's life who's visually or has a hearing impairment. And we're doing that from our perspective to generate evidence to inform policy so that smartphones can be recognized as assistive technology, because in most countries it's not.
Yeah, it should be. Absolutely should be.
Yeah, but I mean, there's politics at play here as well, right? Per country, you're dealing with the politics of a country. And some countries that may not even have a functioning government. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, one step at a time, right? But it is why we were set up. And it's one of the reasons why we're actually based in the United Nations. It opens the doors and gives us access to governments because without them, there is no sustainable access to AT. And so, we're trying to work with all countries, the lowest income countries that are in conflict and others. And so the stakeholders may differ, but it is a long journey, right? There's no doubt about it. So the first step is to raise awareness, because even that is missing sometimes, right? Governments may not even realize, even ministers of health or social welfare or of education do not realize the difference that assistive technology can make. They don't budget for it. They don't think about it, right? So that's the first step. Then you've got to talk to ministries of finance, treasury, because it needs to be budgeted for. It needs to be planned for, right? And there it's about making the case that actually it's a smart thing to do. It's not a cost to the countries. There's actually a return on investment, right? And we estimate that for every $9, that you invest in assistive technology, there's a $9 return to the country's economy because of better education outcomes, better employment opportunities, longer productivity of employed people, and so on and so forth.
But they say the same in some countries with assistive technology programs in employment. That $1 in can be $1.50 out, and so on, right?
Right. So we're trying to, use all the levers we can and appeal depending on who we're talking to. There are different things that, there's the moral imperative that is essential, but then there's the economic rationale that is also as important to change things.
How do you measure success at the end of the day? Because I can't imagine that's easy.
No, we have a bold goal. We are trying to make sure that 500 million people are reached by 2030.
Oh,
right. So that's probably would mean half of the unmet need would be reached by 2030. Now, we're not saying that we can do that alone, but we're trying to be a catalyst towards that change. And then we've got milestones in between. We're looking at changes in the systems. Are new policies being adopted? Is financing increasing? How many people are trained? And then also, how many people are we actually reaching with these products? And so we've got now monitoring systems in place through our partners in country to capture that information.
Amazing. Pascal, thank you so much for sharing the story. Let us know how we can help, because we're here to hopefully share your story and get the word out and learn more about what you're doing. And I'm curious to hear about the relationship with Google and the GDI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a work in progress, and it's a great partnership. And we've already got some first results from that study, which we'll be sharing tomorrow. And it just really changes people's lives. This simple smartphone.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you a question, which is, what does the Zero Project Conference mean to you? How does it, impact
It's
you?
a critical conference in this space because it brings together so many different actors that are critical to the agenda that we care about. And so both attending the sessions, but then having all of these side conversations and then networking is really what's key, because it's all about spreading that word. And you asked me what you could do, and it really is spreading the word, unlock the everyday. And we got to get more people behind this. We have to get more donors behind this. And hopefully Canada will be one of them.
Well, we're happy to do that for you. That's why we exist.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Stephen.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break and come back and wrap things up here from day one in Vienna. Can you believe it? It's almost over.
I know.
Stick around. We'll be back in a moment.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.